So I watched this, and yeah, it's interesting. Certainly, thought-provoking. I guess at the very least. Um, it seems like it's might be fiction, but mired in reality. I still need to read a bit more about it, but it's I'm not entirely sure why they transformed the CD. I mean, essentially, it's originally a novel. Suite Française. I think it's Française. Yeah. So it's originally a novel, which this movie is based on, but they transformed it into a piece of music for some reason, played by a German as well. I have no idea why, but I'll just read a bit more about it. But first of all, though, it's certainly interesting. It's almost similar to Elite, it's of course pronounced differently because anyway, yeah, it's sort of similar to that, except the love affair there was more integrated and slightly different, and the content is sort of reversed. This though is more different, I guess. Just it's still interesting though, certainly interesting as to what it's about. Yeah, because in fact I'm not entirely sure I watched movies from around the era, when France was occupied, yeah, those 4 years. Certainly intrigued me enough to research a bit while watching to know exactly. I needed some clarification as to, with regards to the free and occupied zones, because I had the impression that Vichy France was the entirety of occupied France, but no, apparently it was only supposedly the free part, although later it was entirely occupied. Yes, I'm not entirely sure why they even did that. Suppose some sort of nominal thing. There was a lot of nonsense. I cannot believe people needed to billet the enemy combatants. It is unbelievable. It really is. You can see why the mothers especially hate them, suppose one could say. Of course, there are differences, as one could see. But then again, in the end, this is the question. There are the real differences. I mean, that guy, his lover, could have very easily just said, "Nope, I'm not doing this." And yet, instead, he actually shouted the orders and even made some sort of symbolic shot at the end. I mean, you couldn't be more involved than that, unless somehow they're going to argue that, well, they didn't technically shoot them, but they're still alive, etc. Yeah, so that's the thing when it doesn't really gel with the meme as much because up till then you can sort of believe that he's not like the others, like he tries to tell her, but then suddenly there isn't really no difference whatsoever. He even tried to put up this exterior when she came to visit him in their camp, whatever it is, you know, as if somehow he's a totally different person suddenly, and he has this hardened shell which broke within a few seconds of talking, really. So it was just a facade, but I don't know. Is it really? I mean, how could someone do that though? Even if, I mean, saying this, this is the thing, right? That, they did that to a so-called viscount. Of course, they would have done it to the other guy if they found him. They would have done it to anyone. But this is the thing, right? These people, especially, well, historically, it was mainly capitalists who were their main partners. pretty much. Now, capitalists also tend to have, uh, well, you know, the supposed nobility, very much inverted commas, usually gets there in the first place because of capital, of course. So this is a question one needs to ask. I mean, I don't know. Do they seriously think that oh, I'm a viscount, you cannot do that? Who's going to save them? I don't know. Well, maybe if they said, "Oh, I'm a capitalist. I'm funding you." Yeah, that could have worked. I mean, if literally all the funds they had dried up, then yeah, I suppose could have worked. I mean, unless they're ready to do everything for free, which hey, might as well, right? I mean, I'm sure there were many true believers. Yeah, it's quite something, and the fact that I'm not entirely sure why I never heard of this book before is quite something. Though that she only managed to complete 2 books out of 5. It's quite something to think that it's apparently she said they're in limbo and depends on the gods, and that's quite haunting. And you're thinking, if only you just left instead of writing. Yeah, quite something, isn't it? Just honestly, in such a case, in such a situation, it's not quite. It's almost. There aren't many words that one can say, really. And, it's such a like it's almost better if this was fiction. I mean, L- Allied was fiction, as far as I know. I think, unless I'm misremembering. Actually, was it? Oh, I'm not sure now. But yeah, this it's a bit strange because it is fiction. I think. I need to confirm. I mean, as in the story itself, the background is certainly not. I noticed then that the name of the daughter was the name of practically the person there who told her husband that the, Benoit pointed a gun at her, etc. That didn't really go well. I'm not sure how much of that is fictional, but that really didn't go well. Like in the end, her own husband ended up. She really, her character really was a villain there. Because no one knows if she truly loved her husband, but she wouldn't even dare to tell him. At the very end, she just couldn't be bothered to tell him at all. She practically lied. You see, there was a pause between, when she decided to tell him and just before, there was a pause. I guess that's what indicates it's a lie. Of course, he was half asleep, so not quite very sensible to detect that. But yeah, so it's quite. Yeah, this is a powerful drama. In comparison to the last movie I watched by where Christine Scott Thomas was involved. Military Wives, yes, that I've also commented on. That was so idiotic. Like, what the heck? I'm not sure if she only ever gets involved with war movies, but well, as a war movie, it utterly fails. This, on the other hand, yeah, pretty powerful stuff. Kind of like Allied as well. That's a more comparable thing, not Military Nonsense Wives. It was more of a comedy, but it don't try to be dramatic. How the hell can you be dramatic if you're a comedy at first place? Anyway, I commented on it elsewhere. So yeah, I also commented on Allied as well. Both of them are quite powerful. Yeah, this is so well. The story behind it, the background, makes it so much more powerful. Uh, so I heard of musicians that ended up dying. I thought first I was kind of misled there because it's a piece of music in the movie, and then it said it was written by. Of course, music usually is written as well. So I thought she wrote music, you know, which is why I was thinking, why then did they give it to a Nazi to play? I don't get it. So even yeah, it's a bit but I don't know. I'm assuming, unless I confirm otherwise, it's something Alexander Desplat wrote himself. He always writes really, really beautiful music. Yeah, and he's French, I think, isn't he? Yeah. So yeah, and but no, and essentially, it's a book that she began to write. Presumably, she thought, well, this is a historic event. It's time for fiction. Well, fiction mild with facts, she still said there's nothing there where she was. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that could happen. If your home is occupied, is that really the time to start writing? Or, yeah. She, of course, was a prolific writer long before this novel, even though this novel is the most popular of hers, just because it was published, so much later than her writing it, apparently because her daughter was too afraid to see it until the end of her life. She thought it was a notebook. I don't suppose a novel is too scary to see, but anyway, no, obviously she just didn't know what she was. I mean, if it was a diary, indeed, it would have been much more personal and such. But yeah, apparently it was the second novel out of the five that she intended. The first one doesn't really have much in common with it at all. It seems more like a pre. I suppose it's just the first one, so. But in the context of this movie, I'm not sure why they decided to make a movie out of the second novel specifically. It's the first novel would be more of a prequel, I guess. Um, she did seem to write almost exclusively about romances and fidelity and whatnot. So the entire So I frankly don't know how she did it. Like, Nazis were already in power. She published her first novel when they did. I think it was early 30s. And somehow she's writing about people who. Well, she first wrote about her. Much about first. Yeah, she did write about her own family. Apparently, she hated her mother a bit. So now I'm wondering if indeed the character who wanted to report that guy in the movie was based on her mother, possibly because she also shares a surname, and maybe she thought, I don't know, that her father suffered because of her mother or something. I'm not entirely sure. But you know what? Apparently, she managed to turn two of her novels into movies, even while she was still alive. That's remarkable. I don't think there's any equivalent these days. Um, there are equivalents in horror. Stephen King, much more prolific. Of course, she could have easily been as prolific if she kept living, but I'm not sure about romantic writers that turned into movies. There was the director of, forget her name, of, You've Got Mail, but she was mainly a director, I think. Although she might have also written the script. So in a way, she was similar, closest, I guess. One thing I mean I don't get about Irene, about the author of the novel this movie is based on, Irene Nemirovsky, is that she wrote for um, seemingly reactionary newspapers. For Candide and Ringar, who were quite confused about the whole thing. I'm assuming it's just the thing about nationalism that it obviously is fervent about the country it's in because they were French reaction newspapers, so they were effectively anti-German. until, of course, they invaded. They know their tune totally changed because probably the editor was also changed. Anyway, long story short, they did cease to function at around that time with Candide, I think, ceasing to function after the war, soon after, because of its collaborationism. So I don't quite get why she. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she thought that um, this side of the political spectrum was different in France in comparison to Germany. I don't know. I don't know how some people do not seemingly um, see. I mean, heck, they even literally collaborationism. It's in the name. So not very different at all. Of course, when it comes to nationalism per se, then sure they fight wars, but not so much about their fundamental beliefs, it seems. So this is what I don't get, huh? She kept writing through the war. I mean, her novels, admittedly, based on this movie at least, didn't seem to be very political per se. So I guess she just needed a platform. That's pretty much it, possibly. Writing about romances doesn't exactly require much. Because back then there weren't any sites that could publish your work. Internet did not exist, to say the least. So I don't know. I mean, the movie is weird as it is, and if the novel is the same, then I don't know. It's a relic of time. It seems to me. She died though of typhus. So not not like her husband directly killed. Uh, Remarkably, there still isn't a vaccine for typhus. So many decades I guess later, actually, vaccines have existed now for over a century in a rudimentary form, I guess. Yeah, that's remarkable. It's by parasites though, not viruses or bacteria. So kind of like malaria, parasites can be crazy. Anyway, yeah. Apparently, Irene didn't want to lose her house in France. That's the reason she did. It's a bit of a sorry tale, really. That she left Russia because of actually was Ukraine part of Russia at that point? I'm not sure. Forgot. But yeah, she left in the Russian Revolution. Lost her house there, and then she didn't want to lose her house here again. So very unlucky, because Russian Revolution was civil strife, but not quite the genocide that the Holocaust was, of course. So it would have been much better to escape her house in France if it was that. But yeah, it's quite a story still, though. Mm, maybe she would have been a director as well if she continued on. I don't know. Seemed like all she wanted to do is write novels at this point, but a couple of her movies were filmed, so I guess I'll watch them at some point. And they're from 1930, so pre-war, I'm assuming. And well, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll watch them at some point. Must be quite different from this movie here.